The executive office gleamed with dark wood and floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the city skyline. Isabella Torres stood in the doorway, clutching an envelope that contained every dollar she'd managed to save. At 29, she was a plus-sized woman who'd spent most of her life being told she wasn't never thin enough, pretty enough, or worthy enough. Today, she felt all of that as she faced the man who controlled her family's fate. Adrian Blackwell, the 36-year-old CEO of Blackwell Enterprises, sat behind an imposing desk. His reputation for being ruthless and emotionless preceded him. When his assistant announced her, he looked up, expression unreadable. "Ms. Torres, you asked to discuss your father's debt?" Isabella stepped forward, forcing confidence into her trembling voice. "Yes, my father owes you $300,000. He's sick and can't work. He's terrified you'll take what little we have left. I'm here to offer payment." Adrian studied her, dark eyes sharp. "You have $300,000, I have $50,000. It's everything I've saved working 2 jobs for the past 5 years. She placed the envelope on his desk. "I know it isn't enough, but I'm begging for more time. I'll pay the rest in installments." "Just a broken bar. Please don't destroy my father. Your father made poor business decisions and defaulted." "That's not my concern. He made those decisions to pay for my mother's cancer treatment," she said, her voice breaking. "She died anyway. He lost everything trying to save her. Doesn't that earn any compassion?" "Compassion doesn't pay debts." Tears threatened, but Isabella refused to let them fall. "Then take the $50,000 as a down payment. Give me 5 years. I'll work myself to death if I have to." Adrian opened the envelope, counted the money, and looked at her with a strange expression. "This is everything you have? Every cent?" "Where do you work?" "I'm an accountant during the day and do freelance bookkeeping at night. I'm good at what I do. I can make the payments if you give me time." He was silent for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he pushed the envelope back toward her. "I don't want your money." She blinked. "What?" "I said, I don't want your money. Keep it. Your father's debt is forgiven. All of it." Isabella's heart raced. "Why? What's the catch?" "There's only one condition," he said, standing to face her. "Dinner. With me, tonight." She stared, stunned. "That's it? Dinner? And my father's debt disappears? That's all? Why would you do that?" "Because you walked in here ready to give everything for your father. Because you've worked 2 jobs for years when most would have given up. Because even terrified, you demanded compassion from me. That takes courage. And because," he added with a faint smile, "I'm tired of dinners about profit margins. I'd like to share a meal with someone real. I'm not the type of woman men like you take to dinner," she said quietly. "You date models, not women like me." "I see you," he said softly, "a woman who came here to pay a debt that wasn't hers, who values family over wealth, who has courage most people can't imagine. That's exactly the kind of woman I want to have dinner with." "Okay," she said finally. "Dinner. But my father's debt is really gone?" "I'll have the papers drawn up today," he promised. "No tricks, just dinner." That evening, Adrian picked her up in a sleek car that made her nervous to touch. The restaurant he chose was intimate and warm, and no photographers, no spectacle, just quiet elegance. "I expected you to take me somewhere public," Isabella said. "Make it look like charity, like you're being kind to the fat girl." "First, you're not fat," he said. "You're beautiful. Second, I don't need to prove anything. I wanted dinner with you, not an audience." "I don't understand. You could have anyone." "Why me?" "Because everyone I meet wants something of money, power, a connection. You came offering everything and asking for nothing but mercy. That's rare." "You're rare." They talked for hours. Adrian shared how he built his empire from nothing, how success had left him isolated. Isabella spoke of her struggle, her mother's illness, years of judgment about her body, learning to see her worth. "My father taught me that worth isn't measured in pounds or dollars," she said. "It's measured in character." "He raised an extraordinary daughter," Adrian replied, "brave enough to stand up to me when others wouldn't." "You were testing us," Isabella realized. "I was looking for people worth believing in," he admitted. "Your father made mistakes out of love. You worked yourself to exhaustion out of loyalty. That's the kind of strength the world needs more of." Over the next months, they continued seeing each other. Adrian introduced her to his world, and not to show her off, but to share it. She introduced him to her family dinners, laughter, simplicity. At a charity gala, Isabella whispered, "People stare at us. They're wondering what you're doing with someone like me." "Let them wonder," Adrian said, taking her hand. "I'm with the most remarkable woman I've ever met." "I'm scared," she confessed, "of your world, of not being enough." "The only opinion that matters is mine," he said. "And I think you are perfect as you are, brave, fierce, loyal, real." A year later, Adrian proposed not in luxury, but in Isabella's father's modest home, with her father watching. "You came to my office offering everything you had," Adrian said, kneeling before her. "I told you that you owed me nothing but dinner. That dinner changed my life. You showed me that worth isn't measured in numbers, it's measured in love, courage, and loyalty. Will you marry me?" Her father wept. "You saved me because of her." "I saved you because you raised a daughter who defines strength," Adrian replied. "And I wanted to be part of that." At their wedding, Isabella told their story. "I walked into his office expecting rejection. I offered him $50,000 and a desperate plea for mercy. He gave me back my money and asked for dinner. That night, I learned that the man known for ruthlessness had more compassion than I ever imagined." Adrian smiled as he added, "She offered me everything she had, and in doing so, gave me something far more valuable, herself." Years later, they told their children the story of how their parents met. "Mommy walked into Daddy's office to save Grandpa," Adrian would say. "She offered everything, and I realized I'd finally met someone who knew the real meaning of love." "Daddy forgave Grandpa's debt," Isabella would add, "because he saw the worth of a family that refused to give up." Because sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is walk into the office of power and ask for mercy. Sometimes offering everything reveals a character that makes us deserving of receiving everything back. And sometimes, the man who seems heartless is simply waiting for someone real enough to remind him what love looks like. 2 years had passed since the day Isabella walked into Adrian Blackwell's office with trembling hands and a heart full of fear. The woman who once stood there begging for mercy was now his wife, a confident, radiant, and still as kind as the day he met her. Their life together wasn't built on luxury, though they had plenty of it. It was built on respect, laughter, and small, ordinary moments that felt extraordinary. Quiet dinners at home, late-night talks on the balcony, the warmth of waking up next to someone who saw you completely. Isabella never forgot where she came from. Every month, she visited her father, cooking his favorite meals and keeping his small house exactly as it had always been, humble but full of love. Adrian often joined her, sleeves rolled up, washing dishes or helping repair the old porch. The neighbors still whispered about the billionaire who'd fallen in love with the accountant's daughter, but he never seemed to hear them. One spring morning, Isabella found Adrian sitting alone in his office at home, staring out the window. His company was under public scrutiny, a merger gone wrong, journalists digging into his past deals, the kind of storm that could shake even a man like him. "You look like the world's on your shoulders," she said gently, walking in with 2 cups of coffee. He sighed. "I've spent my whole career being the man who never bends, never shows weakness. But now a broken bar, I'm questioning if I've spent too many years fighting the wrong battles." Isabella placed her hand over his. "You haven't failed, Adrian, you've grown. That's what strong men do, they learn when to lead and when to listen." He looked at her and smiled faintly. "You always know exactly what to say." "Maybe," she said softly, "or maybe I just remind you of the truth you already know." He reached for her hand, holding it tightly. "Promise me something." "Anything. If this company falls apart, if I lose everything I built, a broken bar, you'll stay?" She smiled through tears. "Adrian, I didn't marry your empire, I married your heart. And that's something no loss can touch." That night, she sat with him while he drafted an open letter to his employees. He admitted his mistakes, something no CEO at his level ever did. He promised transparency, fairness, and change. When the letter went public, it stunned the business world. For once, people didn't see Adrian Blackwell the ruthless tycoon. They saw a man capable of humility, and behind him, they saw Isabella. The company weathered the storm, but something inside Adrian shifted. He started a foundation in Isabella's mother's name, one that provided medical support for families facing impossible healthcare costs. When Isabella saw the plaque unveiled, her hands trembled. "You did this for her?" she whispered. "I did it because of you," he said, because you showed me what real strength looks like. Months later, as they stood in that same office where their story began, Isabella handed him a small white envelope. "What's this?" Adrian asked, teasing. "Another desperate offer to pay off a debt?" She laughed, shaking her head. "In a way." "Open it." Inside was an ultrasound photo. Adrian stared at it, then at her. "Is these a broken bar?" "Yes," she said softly, tears filling her eyes. "We're having a baby." He was silent, overwhelmed, his usual composure gone. Then he pulled her into his arms, his voice breaking. "You've already given me everything I never knew I needed." And now there's a broken bar. When their daughter was born 8 months later, Adrian held her like she was made of light. They named her Elena Hope Blackwell, a reminder of everything that had brought them here: compassion, courage, and second chances. Years later, when Elena was old enough to ask how her parents met, Isabella told her the truth. "I walked into your father's office with $50,000 and fear in my heart. I thought I was there to save my father, but really, I was about to meet the man who would save me, not from debt, but from believing I wasn't enough." Adrian kissed her forehead. "And I met the woman who taught me that power means nothing without purpose, that the greatest investments we can make are in people, not profit." Their love became the kind people whispered about, not because it was perfect, but because it was real. It was built on courage, sacrifice, and the audacity to believe that compassion can rewrite any story. Sometimes love begins in the unlikeliest of places: a debt, a deal, a desperate plea. But what grows from it can change lives, generations, even hearts that once seemed untouchable. Because when two people meet at the intersection of strength and vulnerability, what they build isn't a transaction, it's a legacy.